Welcome to another episode of AutoMundial, the weekly car news and review show where this week we're celebrating 125 years of one of Europe's favourite car brands, Skoda.
And we have a coupe SUV from Audi, the Q3 Sportback, as well as a good old-fashioned 4x4, the Jeep Wrangler. That's all coming up. First though,
Skoda has revealed a new student-designed concept car, the Slavia. Named after the first bicycles produced by founders Václav Laurin and Václav Klement, the two-seater roadster was styled by 31 design students at the Skoda Academy. Based on a Scala hatchback, the Slavia is the 7th student concept car from Skoda's vocational school in the Czech Republic. Inspired by the tiny 1957 1100 OHC race car, the Slavia was built with an emphasis on sporty driving, with a reinforced chassis and much lighter curb weight than the regular Scala. It follows on from last year's Mountiac student concept, a rugged Kodiak-based pickup truck, and while neither is likely to make it into production, it's great to see what Skoda's young talent is coming up with.
it's no secret that car buyers are the driving force for the raft of SUVs on the market right now. Every manufacturer seems to build at least one, with everything from super mini-sized crossovers to giant luxury and performance SUVs filling showrooms around the world. But it seems to be the German manufacturers who are really cashing in on the SUV bandwagon. They all have comprehensive SUV ranges for all budgets, and just when you thought Audi had every sort of SUV niche covered, they announced this, the Q3 Sportback. A response to the BMW X4 and Mercedes GLC Coupe, the Sportback is a coupe version of the successful Q3. Now we know this won't be everyone's cup of tea, but objectively, this is a rather handsome looking car. Gloss black, grey or body-coloured exterior detailing help to create a sporty stance, while the typical sloping roofline helps the Sportback to really stand out against the regular, more sensible standard Q3. Inside, the cabin is identical to that of the regular car. That means you get the gorgeous dual-screen infotainment system along with the optional digital cockpit instrument display. Everything you touch feels premium and built to last. It's far from the poshest interior in Audi's range, but in this class it's more than competitive. Incredibly, and unlike any other coupe SUV we can think of, the Sportback doesn't really compromise luggage space. Measured up to the parcel shelf, the Sportback's 530-litre capacity is exactly the same as the regular Q3's, although the sloping roofline will mean taller items may not fit as easily. It somewhat lives up to its name too, with all Sportbacks coming with sport suspension as standard. There's a range of petrol and diesel options available, as well as a sporty RS Q3 version with nearly 400 brake horsepower. A decent attempt then at a compact coupe SUV, but how does it compare to its main rivals, the BMW X4 and Mercedes GLC Coupe?
Well, once again, BMW has divided opinion with the styling of the X4, but chances are that if you like the Q3 Sportback, you'll probably like this. Now in its second generation, the X4 uses X3 running gear, with styling reminiscent of the bigger X6. Like the Audi, the BMW gets a range of petrol and diesel options. However, those looking for real performance can have this engine dialed up to 503 brake horsepower in the X4M. Capable of 0 to 62 in just 4.1 seconds, it's a genuine performance car. And a real match for the RS Q3. The interior is superb too, with top quality materials throughout and the latest BMW iDrive system. For our money though, the best interior in this class must belong to the Mercedes GLC. Like the majority of the brand's current lineup, the cabin is dominated by a delicate, flowing centre console, available with wonderful open-pore wood trims. In true Mercedes fashion, the infotainment looks like a bit of an afterthought, carelessly plonked on top of the otherwise beautifully sculpted dashboard. It works well though, with touchscreen functionality as well as the A-Class's touchpad system. It gets possibly the most extensive range of engines in this class, with everything from a diesel hybrid to a 500 horsepower V8 in the AMG 63S version. However, the Mercedes is expensive, especially compared with the Audi. And while the interior is a wonderful place to be, it doesn't feel quite as well made as the Q3s.
The Audi Q3 Sportback is perhaps then not just a great coupe SUV pick, but also a better choice than a regular Q3. It looks great, gets tons of kit, and barely loses out on practicality. It'll cost a fraction more than the regular car, but it's a small price to pay for those striking good looks.
"2020 is a milestone year for various motoring icons. The BMW Mini is 20 years old, the Fiat Panda and Audi Quattro both turn 40, and it's 50 years since the original Range Rover was launched. The Morgan 4.4 has now been around for an incredible 70 years, while Mazda celebrates its centenary. But there's one motoring anniversary that we just had to celebrate: 125 years of Skoda. Having produced everything from motorbikes to limousines, the Czech brand has come from building opulent Grand Tourers before the Second World War to being derided and out of favour during the 70s and 80s until its return to form under Volkswagen Group ownership. It's not often you'll see a bicycle here on AutoMundial, but this is where it all started in 1895 for mechanic Václav Laurin and bookseller Václav Klement. Both keen riders, the two friends found it difficult to find spare parts for their German-built bikes, so they decided to have a go at making their own, the Slavia. Thankfully, by the end of the 19th century, they'd realised that engines were the future and began producing motorcycles like this, the LKB. Laurin and Klement soon became the biggest bike builders in what was at the time Austria-Hungary, and by 1905 they began turning their attention to four wheels rather than two. And this is what they came up with, the Voiturette A. Named after the French term for a small cart, the Voiturette was a petite two-seater with a wood and steel body and, strangely by today's standards, a leather-lined clutch. It produced a whopping 7 horsepower and could reach heady speeds of up to 25 miles per hour.
Over the next couple of decades, the company's successes continued, building well-made cars with a 320-strong workforce until 1924, when a disastrous fire at the L&K factory in Mladá Boleslav brought the company to its knees. Thankfully, the following year, the company was saved by a successful Pilsen-based industrial conglomerate, Skoda Works. With this much-needed investment, L&K was rebranded as Skoda, and this was one of the first cars to wear the new badge, the 110. Produced between 1925 and 1929, the 110 wore both Skoda and Laurin and Klement branding, and was available in various body styles, from saloons like this car to roadsters, ambulances, and even lorries. By 1928, Skoda was producing up to 85 cars a day, and in 1930, production was expanded with a new facility in Prague. However, with the number of cars being sold declining due to the economic depression, Skoda aimed to boost its sales with a new type of chassis. One such car to make use of this new technology was this, the beautiful Popular Sport. Renamed as the popular Monte Carlo after finishing second in the 1936 Monte Carlo Rally, this streamlined little coupe put Skoda into the limelight across Europe as it began to rack up various rally victories around the continent. With other models like the Favorit and the Superb further boosting Skoda's profile, things were looking good until World War II.
After the break, we continue our look back at Skoda's history and take a look at the latest Jeep Wrangler. Still to come, we continue our journey through 125 years of Skoda. But first,
there are few motoring icons that still remain true to their original designs. The Mini has become bloated, the Beetle is no more, and the new Defender continues to divide opinion. Fortunately though, there is one automotive legend that's still sticking to its roots, the Jeep Wrangler. While it's certainly come a long way from those basic Willys Jeeps of World War II, the Wrangler is still first and foremost an off-road vehicle. It uses a traditional ladder frame chassis with the body bolted on top. The windscreen still folds flat, and for some reason you can take the doors off. As with all things, the humble Jeep has had to make the effort to keep up with the times, and this new one is the most technically advanced Wrangler ever. And it needs to be, as in the UK the new Wrangler costs as much as a Range Rover Velar. So what's been done to make this rudimentary off-roader an SUV rival? Well, inside you're greeted by a terrifically retro dashboard with a bright central screen. 3 different sizes are available with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay fitted to the 2 bigger ones. A few typical creature comforts like aircon and parking sensors, but otherwise it's business as usual. No massage seats or touch-sensitive climate control here. The Wrangler is available as either a 2-door or a 4-door, but even the longer wheelbase car has little in the way of practicality. The cabin is cramped and the boot is smaller than in most Super Minis. So then you might be wondering what the point of the Wrangler is. Well, that's simple, it's just supposed to be fun. With its excellent ground clearance, low approach angles, locking differentials and low range gearbox on the Rubicon model, it's virtually unstoppable off-road. But as with most boxy off-road cars, it's better suited to mud and gravel than smooth tarmac. It has big balloon tyres which are great for rock crawling, but not ideal on a twisty back road. In Europe, the Jeep is available with either a 268 brake horsepower 2-litre petrol motor or a 187 brake horsepower 2.2 diesel, while American buyers can opt for a beefy 3.6-litre V6, which is only marginally more powerful than the 2-litre. A V8 is also rumoured to be on the way to rival the fabulous new Ford Bronco.
Like the Jeep, the Bronco is a retro all-American 4x4 with bags of character matched only by its off-road ability. The accessories on offer are mind-blowing, allowing you to kit out your new Bronco with enough kit to see you through to the end of the world. Available with either a 4-cylinder or a big V6, the Bronco has the Wrangler family firmly in its sights. Like the Jeep, you can remove various bits of bodywork should you wish to do so, even on the 4-door version. Like the Jeep, this is very much an old-school 4x4 with a prehistoric ladder frame chassis and solid rear axle for extra toughness. But that's not to say the Bronco is completely old-fashioned. Climb inside the cabin and everything is very modern indeed. The hose-down upholstery may not be the most stylish bit of interior trimming we've seen, but it certainly suits the car, while Ford's impressive Sync 4 infotainment system sits front and centre with either an 8 or 12-inch screen. It also gets a digital instrument cluster behind the steering wheel and all the modern amenities we've become accustomed to. And there's some proper off-road tech for good measure. It has a special trail control system which acts as a low-speed cruise control, as well as sand, baja, mud and rock crawl settings, plus the usual array of on-road modes.
The Wrangler then does exactly what it was designed for. It's a fun car for ploughing through mud and rocky valleys, or the perfect convertible holiday car for a sunny beach. It's characterful, good-looking, great off-road and classically cool. The problem is though, so is the new Ford Bronco, and only time will tell which one will be more popular. What we do know is that since the new Bronco was unveiled this summer, Ford has received over 200,000 orders, with the 18-month waiting list continuing to grow.
We continue our journey through 125 years of Skoda.
Following the end of the Second World War, Skoda was a shadow of its former self. Gone were the phaetons and limousines, with the socialist regime now imposed on Czechoslovakia by the Soviet Union, meaning citizens in the Eastern Bloc needed affordable cars like the 1101 and 1200 that Skoda produced in the 1940s. By the late 50s, though, Skoda was itching to spice things up a bit. In 1957, Skoda unveiled the stunning 1100 OHC, a two-seater sports car weighing just 550 kilos with a 1.1-litre engine producing 95 brake horsepower. The performance was blistering, and the impossibly elegant roadster went on to re-establish Skoda in the world of motorsport with various class wins across Europe. With a newly injected sense of fun, Skoda debuted the Felicia in 1959, and while it was still a cheap car by the standards of Western Europe, it did help to infuse some character into Skoda's fairly sedate lineup. Essentially a two-door convertible version of the Octavia, this cute little soft top still had seating for 5 and was even available with a detachable plastic hardtop for those cold Czech winters. And it was a huge success, with nearly 15,000 cars rolling off the production line. The Felicia proved that Skoda's sense of fun and design flair was still present, and by the mid-60s, Skoda was building cars outside of its home country in Ireland, Turkey and Pakistan, among others. One such foreign-built car was the Trekker. Designed and engineered in New Zealand using Octavia platforms and engines, the Trekker was designed as a sort of cut-price Land Rover. At the time, no tariffs were imposed on agricultural vehicles, meaning they could be produced and sold cheaply. All Trekkers were built in New Zealand by a local importer, but Skoda engineers were on hand to ensure its success. Attempts were made to export the Trekker, with some finding their way over to Australia and the Caribbean, and some even served with the New Zealand Air Force in Vietnam. Sadly though, the build quality and reliability were poor, and fewer than 2,500 were produced before production ended in 1973.
Skoda continued to produce quirky, affordable, rear-engine cars throughout the 70s and 80s, with continued success on rally stages across the globe. But it wasn't until 1987 that Skoda released a truly mainstream car. For its new Super Mini, Skoda decided to bring back an old name from its past, Favorit. A huge leap forward in terms of design and engineering from its predecessor, the Estelle, the Favorit placed the engine at the front, driving the front wheels. The body was designed by Bertone, and it went on to become the brand's first true world car, with exports far exceeding anything the company had built before. With the fall of communism, the Czechoslovakian government began seeking a strong foreign car brand to take control of state-owned Skoda. 8 different companies registered interest, with the shortlist boiling down to Volkswagen and Renault. the French marque decided it would ditch any current Skodas in favour of rebadged Renaults, and as a result, a more sympathetic Volkswagen offer was accepted in 1990. VW would continue to expand the Skoda lineup while continuing production of the existing Favorit. Since then, Skoda has gone from a quirky brand building cheaply made cars to one of Europe's biggest manufacturers. Skoda is still based in Mlada Boleslav, the town where it all started, while top-of-the-range cars still carry the Laurin and Clement badge, and sporty models celebrate Skoda's continued rally successes with the Monte Carlo branding. 2020 marks the dawn of a new era for Skoda as it prepares to launch its new Enyaq electric SUV to rival the likes of the Kia e-Niro and Peugeot e-2008. It'll once again be based on an existing Volkswagen platform, but being a Skoda, we're sure it'll offer something a bit different for a lot less cash.
Join us again next week on AutoMundial as we take a look at the people carriers fighting against the SUV trend.